Okay, for this next step, I'm going to guide you in downloading a model from the internet, saving it, and preparing it in a slicer for 3D printing. And the slicer we'll use will be Bambu Studio. Go ahead and navigate to printables.com. And when you get there, go up to the search bar and type FCMG gear. And you're going to see this orange gear here, the orange icon that says FCMG. Click on it and it'll take you to this page. Now, Printables is a great site to explore, and there's a few other sites online where you can go and find free downloadable 3D print files. So I'd recommend to take some time and just view some of the objects here and how to navigate the site. A few things I'll point out to you is these tabs are important here on the bottom. Here you have details. It's always important to read the details because they will give important print instructions that the designer put together. And then the files will take you to the files page. Here we've got one file, but sometimes there are multiple files. And then makes and comments and so forth. Now the makes and comments section is a great way to verify whether the design here is actually printable, because what happens is people who print the design can end up taking the picture and then posting it, and then they leave their feedback. And it lets you know that yes, this model actually works. Now here we don't have any makes or comments, and so it says 0. But just keep in mind that if it says 0, that this may be experimental on your part. Doesn't mean that the model doesn't work, it just means that no one has verified it. But since I designed this, I can verify that it prints just fine. Okay, so what I want you to do is go to the Details tab, and then we're going to follow these instructions here. So the description says simple gear for Makers Guild 3D printer certification. Carefully follow these instructions. Print the gear with flat side on the build plate, the side with no rounded corners. Scale to 50%. Set material to PLA. Set resolution to 0.28 millimeters. After printing, show model to the instructor in order to be added to the 3D printing certification list. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and download the file, and I'll show you how we can use the slicer to carry out each of these instructions. Okay, so we'll go to Files. I'm going to click here to download it, and I can see here that it's an STL file, and this will download into my Downloads folder. And next we'll go ahead and open up Bambu Studio. You'll get this screen here, and we'll look at the top and notice you have all your different tabs here. You'll be at your Home tab. But you'll see you have additional ones such as your Prepare, Preview, Device, and so on. Click on Login/Register, and you'll be given a username and password in order to be able to log into the Makers Guild network. So follow the instructions for that. I'm currently not at the Makerspace. I'm actually at my home computer. So I have a Bambu printer here. So I'm going to just use my own account right now. But you'll follow the same steps, except you'll use the email given to you and password. Click on the Agree to Terms of Use and then sign in. Now, if you're at the Makerspace and you get this message to sync your personal data from Bambu Cloud, click No. And then go to the Device tab here. And if your printer is on, you should see it automatically connect to it here. At the Makerspace, we've got two printers, the B1 and B2. So you'll see two different printers, and you can select which one you want to print to. All right, now that you've got your printer selected, you'll see the confirmation with a little green circle next to it. Let's go back to Prepare. If it opens up with any models existing on the build plate, simply click on it and hit delete. The next thing I'm going to do is I'll sync my AMS unit with my browser here by clicking on this button here. And what this does, and this is especially useful if you have the filament spools with the chip in them, because it'll automatically grab the information. You'll get this dialog box here, just click Resync, and it will show you all the filament that's on the printer. Now, even if you don't have the filament with the chip, as long as you go on the printer and update and tell it what each filament is, it'll go ahead and bring that information in. And here I have 5 filaments listed. However, the AMS only holds 4 slots. That's because I designated the rear spool holder to have PLA on it here. That's purple PLA. So that will also show up here. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to bring in the file that we grabbed from the internet from Printables, and we'll do that by clicking on the Add button here on top. We'll navigate to my Downloads folder. I'll select the FCMG gear, click Open, And here it is on the build plate. Let's take a look at what those instructions were on the printable site and follow each one of them. So let me go back to details here on the site. It says print the gear with a flat side on the build plate, the side with no rounded corners. So if I look here, I can see that there's a fillet on this side and not this side. So this is the flat side. Now there's an easy way to lay this flat. So on the toolbar up here, I'm going to go to this lay on face. And then I'm going to navigate to the back and select the face that I want to lie on the build plate. And that will throw that down. Okay, so we did that first part here, print gear with flat side on build plate. Scale to 50%. To do that, we'll click on the gear. We're going to go up here to the scale icon. And here we have X, Y, and Z. As long as we keep this uniform scale check here, it doesn't matter which one we change. I can change any one of these to 50%. And it's going to bring the model to 50%. Okay, we've completed the first two items. We've laid it flat on its face. We scaled it 50%. Let's look at what the second set of instructions is here. Set material to PLA. Now I can see on each of these AMS slots, I have the different materials set up there. If I wanted this to print in a certain material that's already loaded, for example, let's say I wanted the white bamboo PLA matte, I can actually just click on the model, and since this is number 2, I can type 2 on my keyboard, and you can see this change to white, and it now matches the color here, and that's what it would print as. Now, if I wanted to change this filament here, let's say I'm not printing with PLA, I'm printing with a different material, I would simply click here and scroll down to the different presets here, and these shows the different material that I have loaded, and I can add different ones if I see that they're not here. But let's say I wanted PETG, I would click on that and it would change it. Now it gives me an error because it says the cool plate here is not suggested for PLA. So this brings up another option here you'll want to take note of. On the print plate, there's two sides, a cool plate and an engineering plate. Cool plate is just for PLA, engineering plate is going to be for other types of materials. So you'll want to make sure that the plate type is set to PLA, and the material here we're going to use is going to be PLA as well. And here we've got this matte PLA. I'll select it. All right, we set it to the right type of material. Now let's take a look at the next set of instructions. Set printing resolution to 0.28 millimeters. So next, to do that, we're going to go right here. This little drop down arrow has the presets for the different resolutions. You can always set your own, but these are great to start with, and honestly you really don't need any more than these. So we're going to go with the 0.28 millimeter. Click that, and that set the resolution. Okay, the next thing is print the model and show it to the instructor. So okay, now to print the model, all we have to do is click on slice plate here, and it's going to go ahead and slice the plate. And notice here it tells you exactly how long the print time is going to be. So here we have 12 minutes 8 seconds, and if you drag the slider up and down, which is always a good thing to do, it'll show you the simulation here. You can always check that to make sure there are no errors. Okay, so that's basically the quick get up and running to send a model to your 3D printer. Some other really quick things I'll talk about that I went over in the presentation. Quality, you can also just type a number here if you want a different resolution than what was given. Strength, you can go here to change your infill settings. So instead of 15%, if I go back down a little bit and you see what 15% looks like, let me change that to 40% and then reslice it. You can see now that that's a lot denser. So that's what that does. We're going to slice this at 15%. So let me bring that back. Speed, we're not going to worry about changing anything there. Support, this is where you would click on this check mark here to enable supports, which we do not need for this model, so I'll leave it unchecked. And then others, you have a few other options here, but the main thing I'll show there would be brim. If you need a brim, you can do an outer brim or an inner brim. Now, brim is used when you don't have enough surface area for your model to stick to the plate, and it'll go ahead and create just a one layer thickness of filament around the part that you would just peel away after. So that's if you need help sticking to the build plate. We don't need brim. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that off. Click here and just do no brim. You can do no brim or auto. We'll try to detect when you need a brim. Reslice it. Okay, so now I can go ahead and just click on print plate, and this will send it to the printer. Here you have one more option here. If you decided, oh, I forgot to change the filament color or the type of filament, you can come back here and select which one you want. But since we've already set that, we don't need to worry about that. Now, normally the only thing I have checked is enable AMS. If you want to do time lapse, you would click time lapse, but make sure to uncheck all of these if you don't need it. Bed leveling just runs the bed leveling. There's no reason to run that every time. Flow dynamics, if you want to do the flow dynamic calibration, I only do that if I'm using a brand new filament I haven't used before, or if a print fails, then I'll run it again and click the flow dynamics calibration using the micro LiDAR. Otherwise, I simply just click on enable AMS if I'm using the AMS. If I'm using the back spool holder, I uncheck the enable AMS button and it'll know to use the back spool holder. All right, that's it. We can just click send and our printer will begin printing.